have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world when you hit that play button. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Whether you've been with me for a long time or you're brand new, this is Dr. Cause and Effect. Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina, the host and founder of the Genesis Frequency podcast, where we talk about personal, professional, and leadership and spiritual development and all that stuff and best practices and how to think the right way. And what I mean by that, I don't tell you what to think, I tell you how to think and talk about how to think and what's the most effective and efficient way to think and to reason and to be in this world we live in, this crazy world we live in. What a crazy week we have had this past week. Oh my gosh. That's why this message is so important. So please share this podcast. Go back and share episodes about living from the inside out. And oh my gosh, there's so much we can talk about, and we will moving forward. But welcome back to the Genesis frequency. I'm so glad you've turned in today because this episode builds directly on what we explored last time in the last episode. So if you missed part one, you'll want to go back and listen. Last week, we focused on praxis in personal development, the alignment of belief with behavior in your own life. We looked at the knowing doing gap and how important it is to close that gap if we want to step into the bigger life we dream about, our dreams, our aspirations, our desires, our corporate goals, our personal goals. Today we're taking it a step farther. This is part two, praxis in leadership and organizations. So listen up. If you're a member of a team, if you lead a team, I don't care if you're a C-suite executive or a consumer-facing individual, or if you're in a ministry, if you're in a small business, if you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, listen up. Listen in today. Because it's not just individuals who struggle with alignment, entire companies, nonprofits, and teams do too. And when that gap exists in an organization, it can destroy trust. It can erode culture and sabotage results. Some of the things that you're working so hard to achieve. And so many companies I work with, they miss this. At least they became aware of there's something here that's beneath the surface that we're not just putting our finger on, and we need help to identify this and make an adjustment so we can make a shift and make the necessary transformation so we can achieve the organization's goals and objectives. So it's so important. Praxis matters not only personally but collectively. And if you're leading in any capacity, whether a business, a team, a church, a community, a municipality, or even just your own family, this message is for you. So listen in, take some notes. Do not, do not put little or no value on this because you are getting it for free. It's extremely valuable. I put out a ton of value. I put it out at no charge in the hopes that you're going to reach out and say, I want more. Work with me, work with my organization, work with my ministry, work with my community, work with my city hall, work with my organization, work with my company, work with the corporation, whatever it is. So don't place little or no value on this. That's a mistake so many people make. All right. So let's dive into this. What is organizational praxis? So again, let's begin with the definition. Again, I encourage you to go and listen to part 1. But praxis, as we've said, is the integration of belief with behavior. It's not just what you say you believe, it's how you actually show up. In organizations, praxis is the alignment between stated values and lived culture. We're hearing more and more about culture. You know about culture. You feel it. No matter where you are on this positive path for inspired living, I'm telling you, you feel culture. When you walk in an organization, doesn't matter if it's a church, a business, a big corporation, a hotel, whatever it is, a meeting. You walk in and you say, man, I really like the energy in here, right? Or really, man, I can't get out of here fast enough. That's the culture contributing to the energy that you feel. So we have to really pay attention to this because where there's alignment, culture thrives. Where there's misalignment, well, morale crumbles. So let's take a look at the knowing doing gap in organizations. We talked a lot about the knowing doing gap in the last episode. So let's talk about that on a larger scale. Leaders often say one thing, but do another. I think we're all very familiar with that, right? Saying they say one thing and they do another. Now, here are some common examples. They say, people are our greatest asset, but the very first budget cuts are always training and development. See this all the time. Just having a conversation with my business partner last night about this. You hear it. You hear this all the time. They say one thing and do another. People are our greatest asset. We believe in empowering them. But really, but when you go back and say, "Hey, we're going to move forward with this proposal," well, we just got the budget and budget cuts. The first thing we're going to cut out is training and development. We just can't go there. That's the last thing that should be cut out. They also say we value transparency, but decisions are made behind closed doors. They say we encourage innovation, but punish mistakes so severely that no one dares try anything new. We've seen this too, right? Somebody says, well, what about, we go this way, try it this way. Man, where are they? Where's so and so? They had some great ideas and they're just gone, right? Or they say, we believe in work life balance, but they quietly reward overwork and burnout. Very, very close to somebody like that, very attractive. Come to work, 4-day work week, 36-hour work week. It is good, this person's working 80 hours a week. You know, so, you know what we call this? We call it organizational hypocrisy, the misalignment between beliefs and behaviors. And when it happens, people stop listening to words. They pay attention only to actions. Stephen Covey said it best. He said, what you do has far greater impact than what you say. Employees don't build trust by reading a mission statement. They build trust by watching leaders live in praxis. So how about we also talk a lot on this show, not just these part 1 and part 2 episodes, but woven into the fabric of every show that I do is the be do have model. So how does this be do have model work in leadership? In part 1 we talked about order. Call it divine order, call it just order, law and order, be do have. And in all of this, Bob Proctor used to say, "Order is heaven's first law," but all of this is just as true for organizations as it is for us as individuals just moving through and navigating our own life and our own accomplishments. So the be do have model in leadership, if we look at B, who is the leader? Who are we as an organization? What's our identity? We all this needs to be identified so it can be embraced and embodied, right? Everyone is a leader because they're leading their own lives. They're leading themselves in their own position. And of course, we have teams and organizational charts, but who's the leader? What are they embodying and embracing? Who are we as an organization? What is the group think? Do what behaviors consistently flow, I should say, from that identity? How do we act day to day? So if we're clear and we've identified what we're being and what we want to be as an organization and how we want the organization and individual team members within that organization to show up, are we aligning those behaviors that we do on a consistent basis within our own positions? Do we allow them to flow from the identity that we have proclaimed to be? How do we act day to day? Questions, really important questions we have to look at. This is what I was talking about when I help an organization get below the surface here. And then the have. What results and culture naturally follow when we've identified what we want to be, the behavior, and then the have shows up. Now, most companies, just like us as individuals, flip this order. They chase results first. If we just have more profit, then we'll be able to do better training, and then we'll be the kind of company that values people. But that's backwards. It truly is, but I hear this all the time. It has to start with being. Leaders must first embody integrity, authenticity, and alignment. When leaders are, then they naturally do. They behave in ways that reinforce those values. And when belief and behavior align, the organization will have trust, performance, loyalty, results, efficient and effective goal achievement. Again, Bob Proctor put it simply. He said, discipline is giving yourself a command and following it. Organizational discipline is giving the company a set of values and then following them in every decision. That's praxis. You set it up and then you align with it in every choice that you're making. So here's a story of some innovation without praxis, a story that came across in my work with leaders. There was a company that constantly talked about innovation, innovation, innovation. It was in their mission statement, their advertising, even their recruiting pitch. Come work here and unleash your creativity. But behind the scenes, leadership punished mistakes harshly. If someone tried a new idea and it failed, again, like I said earlier, they were ridiculed or even demoted. Sometimes where'd they go? They're not here anymore. What do you think happened to innovation? It died. People are aware of these things. The belief was innovation, right? They put it out there, but the behavior was fear. The result was a culture of conformity. No one dared to step outside the lines. That's the knowing doing gap in action. Without praxis, alignment of our beliefs with our behavior, values become just empty slogans and really, really mean nothing. If you don't have the team and the whole organization behind it, that's the epitome of saying one thing and doing another. So a here's another story of a leader who embodied praxis. I once worked with a manager who believed deeply in authenticity and trust. I mean, lived by it. He said, I want my team to know that I've got their back. And man, he lived it. When mistakes were made, he took responsibility. When projects succeeded, he gave all the credit to his team. He listened more than he spoke. He practiced transparency even when it was uncomfortable. Well, the result? His team would walk through fire for him. Loyalty was through the roof. Engagement soared. They didn't need motivational posters. They had a leader who lived praxis. John Maxwell says a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. That is praxis in leadership. So, why does all this matter for culture? Let's touch on this again. I alluded to this earlier. When leaders and organizations live in praxis, culture becomes a force multiplier. People feel safe. They trust their leaders. They give their best because they know the company's values aren't just words. But when there's misalignment, I mean, cynicism sets in, doesn't it? People disengage. They think, why bother? Leadership doesn't mean what they say anyway. They don't mean it. Yeah, we hear it. A lot of hot air, right? Wayne Dyer once said, what you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. That's especially true in leadership. Employees don't follow what you claim, they follow what you live. That's why this is so important. Here's some practical steps. I always like to give you that value. What can you take? What are some practical steps for leaders out there? What does praxis look like in practice for leaders and organizations? So here's just a few steps in this podcast because we're running out of time. Audit your values versus behaviors. Take a look, step back and see, do these align? Take a hard look at your company values. Then ask, are we living this? Where are we living this and where are we contradicting it? Where is our behavior not aligned what we say are our values? Number two, seek honest feedback. You have to start somewhere, and this might be really difficult to do if you're far off. That's why it's really helpful to bring in somebody like me that can come in and we can work on training the whole organization a little bit at a time. But seek honest feedback. Ask your team, do you see alignment between what we say and what we do? This is huge for transparency because now they see, all right, they're aware of this. They want to course correct. And usually you're going to have people fall in line behind it. They want to see you sustain this, but they see that there's an effort made and that another underlying thing that they're being heard, that what they say is valued, that it matters. So you're going to ask them, do you see alignment between what we say and what we do? Be ready for honesty. All right. You're not going to like everything you hear. Number three, align systems with values. If you say you value innovation, then reward experimentation. If you say you value people, then invest in training and development and well being. Maybe integrate some mindfulness in the workplace. Hey, I do that too. Number four, model at the top. It's be, do, have. Don't forget that. Be, do, have. Be, do, have. Model at the top. Leaders set the tone. If you want a culture of trust, you must demonstrate trust. If you want accountability, you must be accountable. Any organization, individually, personally, in the family, in the workplace, on a team, in a ministry, whatever. All these apply. Number 5, close the gap daily. Consistent daily efforts. Praxis isn't a one-time fix. You're becoming aware of it through these podcast episodes, the alignment of belief with behavior. We don't fix it one time. We develop into the individual that lives the be, do, have model, that aligns beliefs with behaviors, values with actions. And it's daily alignment. It really is. Every decision, every policy, every meeting is an opportunity to live your values. And if you don't, well, there's a cost to it. And I tell people all the time, they say, well, we got to slash the budget. Training and development's got to go because there's a cost to it. Oh, of course there is. But what is the cost of not doing anything? I mean, let's get real. Let's add up these numbers. I dare you to add up these numbers. Let's be real. The cost of not practicing praxis, not developing your team and leadership is massive. The cost of is high turnover, low engagement, lack of trust, toxic culture, toxic environment, missed opportunities. Add those up and calculate that into your budget when you do nothing. Gallup's research has shown that disengaged employees cost U.S. companies up to 550 billion, that's billion with a B, a year in lost productivity. And disengagement almost always traces back to leadership misalignment. That's praxis. Praxis isn't just a spiritual principle, it's a business imperative. So here's my challenge to you. Take this week, take take this week to examine your leadership. If you're a CEO, a manager, a pastor, a teacher, a parent, wherever you lead, ask yourself, do my actions match my words? Do our systems reflect our values? Where is the knowing doing gap in my leadership or organization? Then take one step toward alignment, just one. Praxis is built one decision at a time. And let me remind you, we're going to wrap it up here today. You don't have to do this alone. This is the work I do with leaders and organizations, with individuals too. I help identify the hidden paradigms, the cultural contradictions, and the self sabotaging gaps that keep you from thriving, personally and professionally. Together, we build alignment so you, your people, and your organization can flourish. If you're ready to bring praxis into your leadership and culture, reach out, Stephen at successocean.com. That's Stephen with a PH, STEPHEN at successocean.com. And let's just have a conversation because the world doesn't just need more leaders, it needs more leaders in praxis. Successappointment.com is my calendar that will open up in your time zone. So have a look at it. Successappointment.com, all one word. So that's it for today's episode of the Genesis Frequency. Last week we explored praxis and personal development, so listen to that. Today we've taken it into leadership and organizations, two sides of the same coin. Because when individuals align belief with behavior and when organizations do the same, transformation becomes unstoppable. Unstoppable. Transformation becomes unstoppable. I'm just thinking about, I love that word transformation. I mean, that's my life story, making that transformation. So remember, praxis is power. Align belief and behavior, and you lead with integrity, authenticity, and lasting impact. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening. This is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmine. Until next time, keep stepping toward your dreams, goals, and objectives. Consistent daily efforts. Move forward in faith, alignment, and praxis, and know that I wish for you an infinitely spectacular day. God bless you.